Welcome back to the Boys and Bolos podcast. We're down here in the barbershop studio. Jarrett's a remote abroad, wherever he is. Who knows where he is? Jarrett, where are you?
Where are you? I'm on the moon. a.k.a. South America.
You sound great.
That's the most important part. You know, I think if you didn't even say these things, people wouldn't even realize we're not sitting in the same room. And there's a beauty to that.
There is. Well, I can see you, so at least we got that going for us.
That's our lives now. That's what we have. So to everyone listening, this episode should have come out a couple days ago, but we're apparently new at podcasting, so we had some technical errors. So we're going to redo this again. And the last time we did a podcast, we did weeks 17 through 21. And this week we're going to do weeks 22 and 23, even though Chelsea just played yesterday for week 24 and Spurs played today, which was match day 17, along with Brentford and Manchester United. So there is a lot of football being played these days, but why don't we look back at week 22 and just make sure that we go over that and give it its day in the sun, if you will.
Is there anything of note that happened week 22 that you'd like to bring up for our listeners?
The only thing that happened there were a couple things that happened of note. One, I was surprised to see United blow a 2-goal lead at home against Aston Villa. That was less than cool. And it kind of just shows that I don't even know if they're going to be in the top 4, but we can discuss that more. And then the other thing I would say is that the Norwich beat Everton, which led to the sacking of Rafa Benitez. And apparently Everton have just hired Duncan Ferguson as their interim coach, which is going to be interesting because I don't know who they're going to get. Apparently they were trying to get Jose away from AS Roma, but I'm like, dude, why don't people understand that Jose is a dumpster fire? Like he has an expiration date the second he walks into your club. And then I think the final thing, and this is where I'll let you talk for probably 15 to 20 minutes, is that the NLD was canceled, which, how do you feel about that one, Jeff?
Well, it's weird to talk about a game that should have happened a couple days ago, and Spurs just played a game today, a very historic game where they won in dramatic fashion. But I honestly think that game should have happened, and most people think that game should have happened. And now even maybe the Premier League thinks that game probably should have happened, considering now they're going to go back and look at the rules and change how they postpone games. Figures, right? Right after Arsenal, basically the game postponed because they are a dumpster fire and cannot, quote unquote, cannot field 14 players, even though they have an academy system and their U23s play the day before. Either way, they had some players at AFCON. They had some injured players. They had one COVID case, and they had Xhaka sent off the day before, as well as 2 players earlier in the week that they sent out on loan. So they knew full well they're going to be playing a game on Sunday. They sent 2 players on loan. They could have pulled up players from the U23s, but didn't, and just banked on the fact that they were going to get a postponement, which they did. There was some precedent there, so I mean their gamble paid off because they were able to postpone their game, and now they get to play it midweek down the line. And it's just kind of farcical at this point. It just doesn't. Nobody really understands what the rules are. People teams obviously taking advantage of COVID and the pandemic situation to get games that would normally not have been postponed. Conte even said he's never seen a game postponed over injuries on a player. Apparently, if you don't get to field your best 11, you get to postpone games. I guess that's how the Premier League wants to operate. I think it's a can of worms type of thing. Once teams know that they can get postponed games, are they going to just put a bunch of players? Suddenly a bunch of players have pulled hammies, or a player gets COVID, or I mean, a player can get sent off on purpose. I mean, there's really a whole host of things that can get you apparently to postpone a game. So I think it's wrong. I don't think any other league does it and allows it. I think if you can't send out a team because of injuries, and you're not willing to send out a team because you're not willing to pull up players from U23, then you forfeit. You give up 3 points and move on. That's really what I think.
I think that'd be great because I think that would force teams to actually play. And I guess I want to step back. I just don't think COVID is an excuse because I think that these teams should, as their private employers who hold these guys to billion-dollar contracts, essentially, I think they should say, yeah, you got to get vaccinated. And then the injury thing, that happens. And the AFCON thing, this happens all the time. Like, this is not something new to the Premier League. This has happened since the dawn of the Premier League. Players will leave to Africa. Players will get injured. And the quote, Conte was like, this is the first time in my life that there's a league that postponed the game for injuries. This is very strange and I'm surprised. And that was obviously his comments on the NLD. And it is surprising because I couldn't even imagine that at like the high school level. You know, you're like going across town to play your rival team or you're driving 20 minutes on the bus. You get there and the coach is like, hey, hold up. We can't play. Brian, Jake, and Pablo all hurt their ankles in a freak ski accident. So we can't play today. That just would never even happen. Like even like the thought experiment of saying that shit out loud is whack. So how does it happen at the highest levels? I really hope the Premier League kind of lay some law down here and maybe even retroactively find teams that have done this because it may be to their favor. Arsenal, has got players hurt, they just sent players out on loan. They've got players at AFCON, even though Aubameyang is coming back, and apparently a Saudi Arabian team is looking at him because ever since he got his payday, he's fallen off a cliff. And they had some COVID players, or had one COVID player, I guess. But I hope that the PL comes down hard on this and they find teams retroactively, not like crazy amounts. And in the future, you totally have to forfeit. Because 3 points, we know how valuable each point is in the Premier League. You can put a dollar amount to how valuable it is. And I think that would probably be the most equitable thing to do. But at the same time, you can argue, sorry, Jeff, you can argue that smaller teams with smaller academies don't have the bench strength that an Arsenal does, that a Chelsea does, that any of the top teams, basically any of the teams that were trying to join the Super League, they have ridiculous guys coming from their academy.
Yeah, I mean, there's other teams that's a lot of people are going to say, well, Arsenal basically they were taking advantage of the Premier League not having very firm rules on it. And okay, yes, there is an aspect to that, but there also is an aspect to Arsenal needs to, put out a team that just needs to play the game. Just play the game. Don't try to postpone it. Don't try to do anything. You got Wolves the same week playing 15, 17 or 18, 19-year-olds on their team and winning. You've got, Leicester today, they had 11 injured players, and they went out and they played. They didn't try to get anything postponed. They didn't hear anything. They didn't petition. They didn't get rejected. No, they just went and played the game because that's really what you should do. Like, they used one COVID case as justifying the submission for postponing the game. I don't know why the Premier League allowed them to do it after rejecting other teams. They rejected Chelsea. They've rejected, other teams on Spurs, even on similar basis. And forced them to play, but suddenly because Arsenal, they have injured players, they're allowed to do it. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's going to be actually fire that it was Arsenal that did this because I think Amazon is still recording. So it's going to be interesting, hopefully, to see the behind the scenes of the board, the manager, obviously Arteta, and then maybe the sporting manager or however the club is structured, have that conversation, knowing that the North London Derby is one of their biggest games every year. And it's one that they have to win. So it's going to be interesting to see on film if one of them is like, yeah, maybe we should wait a week. It would be better for us. We'd have a better showing if we waited because that would just be so brutal for non-Arsenal fans to watch. And then I think for Arsenal fans to watch. If I were an Arsenal fan and I would have seen that, I'd be kind of bummed that my team decided to kind of take advantage of the COVID situation and the overall change. And I think the way people are looking at games, the precarity of injuries, transfers or whatever. Because like I said, if this wouldn't even happen at the local high school level, I don't understand how it happens at the Premier League level.
It's crazy that a team like Arsenal, they would allow this to happen. It's crazy to me that not only did they send two players out on loan, I don't care if they were defenders, I don't care if they were goalkeepers, I don't care. If you have players on your roster, first team players, that play mid defense, they can also play midfield. I don't give a shit. You can stick Ben White up in midfield. You can do whatever you need to do to get 14 players there. And that's not even saying it's not like 14 players are on the field at the same time. We're talking about just having a few players on the bench too. And then this week, they loaned out another player. The fucking audacity of fucking Arsenal to do that.
But at the same time, it's don't don't hate the player, hate the game, right? This is the PL that is letting that game happen.
Sure,
Right? Arsenal's just taking advantage of it. And to
Sure.
be fair, Chelsea, Tuchel is trying to like do the same thing because Chelsea been run rampant. Chelsea just tied Brighton Hove Albion, and Tuchel's like, what do you want us to do? We played on the weekend. Before that, we played midweek. We had another game to make up. We just played the weekend, then we played Brighton Hove Albion. I mean, they played Manchester City 72 hours before, arguably one of the best teams on the planet. And then we have to play Brighton Hove Albion, and we looked flat the whole game. So it's just, if Chelsea has one of the busiest schedules, and I'm a Chelsea fan. I don't want to be too biased here, but Chelsea has one of the busiest schedules currently because not only do we have the Christmas season, but we have to play all of these games. Like we had to play week 24 before everyone's played week 23 because we're going to the Club World Cup. And we already have a crap ton of injuries. We have James and Chilwell that are out for a long time. Lukaku is essentially an injury. Ziyech is meh. Werner literally the other day said, I don't even know why they cheer me. I miss goals all the time. So Chelsea's like its own special shiny dumpster fire these days.
But I would say that's like them can't postponing the game hurts teams. It hurts all the team. It creates a situation now that where Arsenal and Tottenham now have to play a midweek game. So it hurts it affects their fixture before that game and their fixture after that game. And so it's just not like, I don't understand, first of all, why. I don't know why Spurs, sorry. I'm not sure why Arsenal necessarily would even want to postpone it because Spurs are depleted as well. It's not like Spurs were sending out their top lineup against Arsenal. They were missing Romero, Dyer, and Son. Arguably their three best players besides Kane. Now they're going to get to have those.
Yeah, besides Højbjerg.
Yeah, besides Højbjerg. But now they're going to replay that game, in February, March? I don't know. But those players, at least two of those players will probably be back, meaning it's a stronger Spurs side. So arguably it helps Spurs more. So
it's going to be.
I don't understand.
It's just going to be so great that when that game is replayed, there's going to be other injuries. Somebody may or may not have COVID and other extenuating circumstances.
Could be somebody on 5 yellows or something and be suspended or something.
Yeah, Xhaka will be suspended again because the guy, he starts every game with a yellow. And then they're going to be stuck because they can't do it again, and then they're going to have to play. So it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf situation. Like they're going to eventually have to, put up or shut up here. So, But once again, I don't blame Arsenal. I blame the PL. I blame the Premier League. I blame the FA that they were the ones that allowed this to happen. I just think it should be you got to field a team. That's it. And if you can't, you forfeit. And that's just how this is. And I understand that may not be the most equitable approach because some teams have bigger benches. And not just bigger benches, but more quality down the last bench, like quality into the 18th and 19th guy. But anyways,
how else are players supposed to prove themselves except if they don't get a call up, an opportunity off the bench, an opportunity from the academy? How else are they supposed to break through? And so that's what just is so disheartening if I'm an academy an Arsenal academy player and Arteta doesn't even think that they can even be on the bench in a Premier League game. That says something. That means I want out of that academy. I mean, I don't know why anybody. I mean, it's supposedly one of the best academies in the world, right? I mean, it's top one of the Super League clubs, and so that's the other aspect to it. It's sad. It's sad to see.
Talking about Chelsea here, just because it's the thing that I probably know most about. The best thing that happened to Chelsea, the reason why Chelsea won the Champions League, is because Chelsea had a ban. And then they had Frank Lampard, and they left him in charge for an entire year. And Frank brought Mason Mount back off loan and said, go ahead. And he let Tommy Abraham run around. He said, go ahead. He let Hudson-Odoi run around. He said, go ahead. Same thing with Reece James. That is the reason why Chelsea won the Champions League, because we tapped into the depth of our academy. And there's no other reason. Like historically, you'll look back and see. And so it's going to be something to watch, to keep your eye on, if in the next 12 months there's bigger name players maybe leaving the Arsenal Academy because they're just not getting the chance. They're not getting that chance to say, hey, you know what? I can play football at this level too. I just need the opportunity. So, but anyways, that was week 22. It's a good week. Kind of a good week. I don't know. It's just a week.
I mean, City's still at the top. It might be insurmountable, their lead on top of the Premier League. So it's not a surprise, but it is kind of, we thought it was going to be a 2 or 3 horse race, and it's clearly not. So,
with City beating Chelsea and Chelsea and Liverpool tying, I think the week before, that's just so many points lost. If Chelsea wins that and then we beat City, kind of like game on maybe. But City's 13 or 11 points ahead. I haven't even looked, and it's constantly changing. But, being 3 games behind City, it's almost like maybe late March it's already over, and now we're just going to talk about the top 4. But let's look at Week 23. Week 23 is coming up, and we played this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The first game is going to be a battle for who cares less between Watford and Norwich. And this game will be played at Vicarage. I believe in our first recording of this episode, I picked Watford 2-1.
You did.
Simply just because I think that they're better going forward. I think both of their defenses are dumpster fires, but I think they're better going forward. I've lost my love for Pookie.
I mean, if you just look at goals for, goals against, yeah, you're going to go with Watford just based on. But I'm going to go on current form, which Norwich just beat Everton. Maybe riding high after that big win. I mean, they did get Rafa Benitez sacked. There's something to be said there. They got Josh Sargent. I'm gonna go Norwich. I'm gonna stick with my original prediction and go 2-1.
Next game is Everton, Aston Villa. This is Everton with now, I believe, Duncan Ferguson at the helm. It is also going to be at Goodison. And I think Aston Villa are a far superior team. And they basically have one of the best buys, I think, in a long time in the Premier League, because they got a guy who years ago was sold for $150 million, won a Champions League with Bayern Munich, has played at a top level in both Spain and Germany while he's been away from the Premier League, and now comes back under the tutelage of one of his former players, Gerrard. I think Aston Villa will win this game 2-0, and the boos at Goodison at halftime are going to be quite startling.
I mean, you're talking about Coutinho here, and I think they got him on a loan to buy, maybe. I think it's a loan, potentially with an option to buy. I don't know if they're going to hold on to that. I mean, Coutinho is older and injury prone, so we'll have to see if he can actually hold up the rest of the season. Because I mean, it is 19 games and 20 games, whatever the amount of games he has to play. I don't know if he's going to stay a super sub kind of deal. The way he came on, if he has to build up some fitness. He probably still has to build up some fitness. So we'll see. I think he gets to start. I think that Villa will handily win this game 3-1. The other big buy, I thought Aston Villa, and the big move, which is ironic because they're playing Everton, is they got Digne, their wingback, from Everton. I don't know why Everton loaned out their best player. And it just shows, I mean, Everton may be a relegation team. Everton may be down in that bottom of the basement, like fighting to stay out of 18th place. And so I don't see them suddenly having a Duncan Ferguson honeymoon and scoring a bunch of goals. I mean, Richarlison is back in some capacity. I don't know if he's going to start. Still, DCL and Rondon, I think his name is Rondon. Not good. It's not very good. And yeah, they just kind of like not great all around and not a lot of confidence. And Aston Villa has some confidence and a good coach. And I just think that's what's going to take them over the line on this game.
Everton's currently sitting in 16th. Now, that needs to be put in context. They've only played 19 games, and other teams have played 23 and even almost 24 now. So you have to kind of put that in context. But regardless of how many points you have, there's a certain psychology when you look at the table and you see that you're one step away from being in the actual relegation 3. That probably doesn't sit well, which is, I think, what led to Benitez getting fired. So I don't really know what Duncan Ferguson's going to be doing. I agree with you. There's not going to be a very big honeymoon there. But also, I'm down to be surprised because I didn't know Steven Gerrard was going to have the impact that he did. And he's, if they can finish in a Europe position, which I think is a huge stretch for them. But if they do, for me, he's coach of the season. I think that's a massive stretch, though. So next game, Brentford versus Wolves. This game will be played at Brentford's home stadium. What do you got here, Jeff?
After seeing Brentford play today and their poor performance this past weekend, I just don't see them. I think they lost 3-0 against Liverpool, and then they just lost 3-1 or 4-1 against United today. They look like they're a championship team again, and they had some, promotion vibes in the beginning of the season. We thought like this was going to be the surprise, like kind of Leeds of last season, maybe, and surprise and get 12th place. But I think they're going to be down there in the bottom. They're going to be fighting to stay above relegation. they're just. I mean, Ivan Toney. I saw him, in the box. He should have probably scored a goal today. Didn't. He just can't find the back of the net. They, they're struggling, and Wolves are a very good defensive team and are like I said on the previous recording, a solid unit. And
Ivan Toney did score today. Fun fact.
Oh, he did score. Okay.
He did score today, but he should have scored probably a couple other goals because he is their poacher, and he finds them. The thing about Ivan Toney that you could just tell he's a striker. He has very good box awareness, and his positioning and runs off the ball are really quite good. So he does get himself in good positions. Maybe if he had a little bit more.
I think it was a late goal though.
But yeah, it was in minute 85. It doesn't change anything. United were already up 3-0. So.
And as we all know, and we've talked about in the past, and might talk about this pod, is that United are still kind of a dumpster fire under Ragnick, and they're not. I mean, that game that they lose to Villa or they tied Villa? I think they tied Villa
because Coutinho had the goal and assist.
I mean, they just don't look great. So to lose pretty badly, I think Brentford lost pretty badly to United today and made United look good, basically. It just kind of shows they just don't really have it in the Premier League right now. I mean, they may stay above relegation, but they're going to be a lower level team. It's just because it's not that they're that good. It's just that there are teams that are really, really like Newcastle, Burnley, and Norwich are really bad, and so they may just stay. They may just stay out of by not being the worst. So Wolves struggling a little bit. Jimenez isn't finding a ton of goals and. They're kind of getting contributions all over the place. They're Hochi, I think they're like a Chinese player or South Korean player. I think he's hurt. And
South Korean
player, yeah, he may be hurt. But either way, I think Wolves are really good defensively, and Connor Cody plays really well. And they got Cash and not Cash, Cody, and I don't know who their defenders are, but either way, they're solid, and they just if you look at the table and you look at how many goals against they have, it's staggeringly low. They just can't score, and but they've rocketed themselves way up in the table. I think they're up in like 9th now or 8th or 9th now, and so I think they're going to handily win 2-0.
I agree with that. I think Wolves are just a better team. I'm not going to use better unit as you said, but just a better squad. I'll go with squad.
I like unit, but squad's probably more appropriate.
The next game is Leeds United versus Newcastle United, the battle of the non-Manchester Uniteds. This game is one that I'd like to see Leeds win, but I also like an underdog. And right now, Newcastle is an underdog. And there's something to be said about Maximin and his vibes because so if Newcastle get relegated, he's gone. If Newcastle stay, I think he's going to be I don't know. He'll be more of a household name by this time next year because they're going to put actually other pieces around him this summer. But we'll see. I don't really know. This game is going to be played at Ellen Road, which obviously helps Leeds tremendously. But, it's like, do I want Leeds to win so they continue to stay competitive because they're kind of falling off? Or do I want Newcastle to win to probably make a bid to stay up? Because right now they're on 12 points and they're in 19th with one of the second to worst goal differential. So I know Newcastle are going to make some buys this January. I mean, the window is still open, but I'm going to go 1-1. I think it's not going to be the most exciting game. What are your thoughts?
I thought Leeds were very impressive against West Ham. I thought they came out and Harrison had a hat trick that game. It was great to see an MLS player come in the Premier League. Took his own path to the Premier League out of the mom pulled him out of the United Academy, put him into youth soccer or whatever. He went to Wake Forest, I think, and then to the MLS and found his way back to the Premier League. And it's great to see. Leeds has been struggling to score goals because Bamford's been out. But Harrison came out and I think they just out hustled West Ham for the first time I think in a while. Leeds look like the Leeds from last year, and I actually think that they're going to benefit from not playing a midweek game. I think they're going to and I think they're going to come out and just kind of take it to Newcastle. I don't think Trippier and Wood are that big of upgrades for this team over what they had, which is Callum Wilson and who else knows. But basically, Maximin vibes. He'll score a worldie, but Leeds are going to win 3-1.
I want to see Newcastle stay up. so I can see what happens with their project. And I just think that they're a historical club. All things that aren't based in anything other than my own sentiments, but I don't see a path for them right now that isn't really coming down to the last 2 weeks and a prayer.
Honestly, am I really rooting for them? They're an oil club now. Like, am I really rooting for a Saudi Arabia club to be in the Premier League? Like, would it be a better story actually and more kind of karma that they get relegated? You know, the Saudi family buys Newcastle. They think they can just buy the Premier League. Doesn't work out for them. They can't get the pull that they thought they could get, and they get relegated. And then what do they become? You know, do they become just another like kind of project that they don't want to deal with, and they just kind of flounder around and maybe get back to the Premier League? But because there's a lot of players probably that aren't going to want to go play for a championship club, and so Trippier, Wood, these aren't the players I thought they were going to be able to get. I don't know if I was expecting better or expecting worse, but am I rooting for them? No. Do I care? Not particularly. Do I think it would be hilarious? I think it'd be hilarious if they got relegated. Yes, I think that's a funny storyline.
I mean, my soccer mind wants them to stay because I think Newcastle is just a kind of a historic club in my mind when I think about the Premier League. But my geopolitical mind, I don't want anything great for the Saudi royal family. Zero good things for those people. They literally print money, and as far as geopolitics go, they're kind of like the Lannisters. So not really down with that. But when it comes to soccer, I'm like, I kind of want to keep them up. But we'll see. I think they have a 70% chance right now of being relegated the way things are going. So,
I just feel like a lot of the times when a team gets bought by a foreign investor, it loses a little bit of its identity, right? And so a team gets bought by the Saudi family. It's pretty telling that people started wearing like whatever the sheiks or whatever they started wearing like Arab garb, like Arab, like traditional Arab like garb at a game. I was like, dude, that's a little much, and it was just a little heavy-handed. And so if you can lean into that all you want, I guess, but you do have to recognize that like these people and that whole regime is, you know, beheaded journalists, and they don't believe in like women's rights and all types of bad things for our general society. So I don't. It's just not like a vibe that I want to be supporting. So either way, I do agree with you, like the historic aspect of Newcastle, but I also like hilarious storylines, and that is one that was one that tickles the funny bone in my book.
You guarantee that if they do go down to the championship, Amazon is signing a contract. Stacked.
Oh yes.
Like the day they get relegated, Amazon's there. The next game is another game amongst other Uniteds. Manchester United versus West Ham United. This is going to be a fire game because Jesse Lingard will probably still be on United, and he probably still won't play. And after this game, I think within 24 to 48 hours, he gets signed for West Ham. And then he'll have another Lingardinho, probably 6 months with them, and then we'll see what happens. Newcastle was also rumored to have signed them. And one of the things I wanted to share was John Scheimer tagged me in something that Footy Emporium had put up, and it said, you know, Ralph Ragnick he's told the Manchester United hierarchy that Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka are just not good enough to be playing for the club and will need replacing. Now, Maguire for me has always been an expensive dumpster fire and kind of an experiment with capitalism. Wan-Bissaka for me was always the biggest hack, and I don't know, like, if you think Wan-Bissaka is good, I question whether you understand the game, because the reason why he has to make so many tackles is because he gives the ball away and he's out of position. But then there's Luke Shaw, easily the weirdest quagmire. He is such a good Euro that he keeps Reece James and Ben Chilwell on the bench after they won the Champions League, goes to the final with England, looks phenomenal, and then all of a sudden now, I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm kind of speechless as to how he's dropped off.
It's almost the biggest drop off in one season, from one season to the next. And I don't. If you can name another player, I would be interested.
That's it.
Oh, okay,
like
Eden
for
Hazard.
me, other than Eden Hazard,
it's weird because Eden Hazard, we know why. It's because he gained 20 pounds and decided and got a huge contract and didn't care anymore. But Luke Shaw, like, what? Like, he didn't get hurt. He's just can't hack it anymore. Like, he doesn't seem like he can hack it. And we know Slabby, like, is like a Jekyll and Hyde player. He'll like go from like like FIFA 11 to being barely able to defend a Norwich player, right? It's bizarre.
Jesus.
It's
Put some
bizarre.
respect on Josh Sargent's name, all right? Come on.
and Wan-Bissaka, we all talk. We've talked about him. I don't think any United fan even thinks Wan-Bissaka should be starting in that team. He's a hack. He's a hack.
It's not good. And John Shire made a really good point. He's like, people were talking about Maguire as one of the best CBs in the league, not even like a year and a half ago. Obviously, Diaz comes in and Van Dijk's always in that conversation, but Maguire was probably up in the top 3. And I think we also find ourselves in a time where there's not a lot of great center backs. So Maguire was able to kind of rise to the top there, but I don't know. What's going on at United is just constantly perplexing me.
Well,
Since
what happened? What I think is that he's not even in the conversation of making the English center
Maguire,
Maguire.
No, he's not.
He's not even close. Ben White's better. I think Mings is better.
Mings is better.
I think Connor Cody's even better. And
Dyer's
Eric
better.
Dyer's better. Eric Dyer
Right
is
now,
having a hell of
currently.
a yes. Eric Dyer's having a hell of a season. The only reason he may not make the English team for this next international break is because he's injured, not because of any other reason. The guy Southgate hates Dyer, obviously, because he hasn't made the team in 2 years, and so Slabby it's unbelievable that he's still starting center back. I don't know if he's starting anymore because he got Varane and the resurgence of Lindelof, but which is saying something.
Resurgence of Lindelof. That sounds like a really bad telenovela.
But he's the captain. The captain. Unbelievable.
So since Barcelona bought Ferran Torres from Man City, Manchester United have the most expensive club in England. And they currently sit, I believe, in 7th. And they're just wildly underachieving, I think, for the amount of talent they actually have on the field. So I don't know what needs to happen there. But let's go to the game. Manchester United versus West Ham. It's at Old Trafford. I'm going West Ham 2-1.
Sure. I agree. Yeah, I'm down with that.
Next game, Man City versus Southampton. We're not going to talk about this game longer than we have to. I think they will win 5-1. Just with a James Ward-Prowse free kick, because that's something easy to say, and I'm stealing that because that's what you said last time. I'm going to go 5-1. Do you concur?
I'm only going to say it's going to be 4-1. I still think it's going to be over in the first half hour.
Yeah, the first half hour warm-ups. Next game, Arsenal-Burnley. Arsenal, after they've had their long hiatus where they all went to Ibiza and, they were warming their, getting their massages on their hammies, they will play Burnley, which is in dead to last place. I think Arsenal win this game 2-0.
Yeah, I would. I mean, no matter what, they deserve ridicule for having to rest for Burnley, which is silly to even have to say. But I think they're going to have Tierney, Partey, and Odegaard, I think, back. At least three of those players back that weren't going to be able to play in the North London Derby. So I think they'll be fine. And yeah, they'll win 2-0. That's not a big deal for them. But I would love to see them lose. It'd be hilarious. It would just be such karma. But Burnley's bad.
Burnley's bad. Arsenal's been playing pretty well. Next game is Crystal Palace Liverpool. This game is going to be played at Selhurst, aka AFC Richmond. I'm going to go, and I think I called this out, I'm going to go with a 2-2 tie, and it's going to be a fire game. That's my prediction.
I think that Liverpool smack down Brentford. I think this is exactly what I said when we tried to record earlier, is that Liverpool smack down Brentford, and Brentford are way worse than Crystal Palace, right? And so, but not that much worse. So I still think Liverpool will win this game, but it won't be a trouncing. I think it will be a 3-1 win. They will have Mane and Salah still at AFCON, but Jota's good enough. Minamino isn't a great finisher, but he's good enough. And yeah.
Firmino. I mean, they're still freakish moving forward.
Yeah.
Curtis Jones has looked really nice. Max said that he should probably be in the conversation of, better younger players in the Premier League, and I constantly think about that because when I watch Curtis Jones play, I'm like, yeah, this guy balls. So I'm going to go 2-2. You're going to go 3-1. Next game is Leicester-Brighton. And both of these teams to me are very bipolar. And if I had to bet $100 in this game, I'm just going to go with a 1-1 tie. I do not know what to bet. They both have played really well this season, and then they both have lost ridiculous games. And Leicester's coming off having just lost to Spurs in the last 2 minutes of the game where they gave up 2 goals in 2 minutes to none other than Bergwijn. I'm going to go with a 1-1, but this game could go anyway. This would be one of those games where it's impossible to bet on.
I honestly thought that Brighton might have deserved to win the Chelsea game last weekend, even though they tied. They looked really good going forward. Lamptey looked good. I think Mape is good. I think they have a strong defense. They have an identity. Graham Potter, he knows what he's doing out there. He may be up there for Coach of the Year. He's very, very good. He has his team competing when they really shouldn't be, honestly. They shouldn't be this as good as they are. They've floundered a little bit. They've had a few setbacks, and they've lost a few games, had a few games now. I think they're better than this Leicester City team. Honestly, this Leicester City team is very poor. I mean, they're very injured. They're very weak. They had, to give up 2 goals in that fashion that late, and to give up 25 or 6 or some crazy amount of shots to a Spurs team that lacks a lot of stuff going forward. I mean, you had a midfield of Harry Winks, Højbjerg, and Skip, 3 defensive midfielders, and with 2 up top in Mora and Kane, and they still had 20-something shots. I mean, it was just like a barrage of attacking from Spurs, and Spurs are not that big of an attacking team. They've been better under Conte with the wing backs and the three in the back and with wing backs, but by no means a offensive juggernaut, as they say. And they could barely keep Spurs out of the box. And so, there was some post hit. There was some, duffs on Spurs' part. There was, Kasper Schmeichel playing like he usually does, is playing pretty well, and he may keep them in the game. And so that may be Brighton doesn't have a lot of finishing similar to Spurs. I think, when Spurs play Brighton in the FA Cup, I think that's going to be a very interesting game because it's 2 probably well-coached teams at this point that have pretty decent defenses, and it may come down to just what team can finish better. And I feel the same way about this game coming up. I think Leicester, if Maddison plays well, maybe they'll score a goal, but I really think that Brighton are going to win 2-1.
That's fair. Leicester, I think Kasper Schmeichel may keep them in the top 10 because he stands on his head all the time. He and Ramsdale have been unreal this season for their respective clubs. De Gea,
I think
too,
De Gea.
Yeah, De Gea too. I'm not going to leave him out of that because he's saved United on so many, not just in the Premier League, but also in Europe this season. He's played fairly well. And the final game is very amazing for us because it is the Chelsea Spurs love to see it game. Will be played at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea are beleaguered. I don't think Spurs can beat Chelsea right now, but I'm also open to it. After what I saw today with Spurs not giving up and that kind of can-do attitude all the way to the final whistle, if they do that against this beleaguered Chelsea that really is struggling to score, if Spurs win, it will be by the minimalist of margins. And if Chelsea win, it will be also just by the minimalist of margins being a goal. So I'm going to go with Chelsea 2-1 because I'm a Chelsea fan. But if Spurs were to win, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it would be that big of a hit because I think Chelsea's getting more and more mentally folk. We're shifting our mental attention to the Club World Cup. So all that being said, I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea. Where are you with this one?
I probably could do that crazy noise because it's the Boys and Bolos Derby. The Boys and Bolos Derby. I don't got it. Maybe I'll add it in post. I don't know.
Nah, you probably won't.
I probably won't. But either way, Boys and Bolos Derby, London Derby. You got Chelsea and Spurs. Third Chelsea and Spurs matchup in 10 days or something crazy.
In as many days.
I truly think, and I think at Spurs, the lineups that they put out for those League Cup games were intentionally weak because I don't think that, any team that plays a game against a London team and is playing in any type of cup competition is going to try to win. Whatever. They're bummed they didn't win the game, but you cannot tell me that was the best Spurs lineup you could put out because it's the fucking Carabao Cup. I am sorry. It's nicknamed the Mickey Mouse Cup. It's ridiculous. It's a joke. There's no reason to have this competition. It's to sell tickets and it's to sell TV rights. It's not. FA Cup, that's all that should happen. There's none of that. This League Cup shit is bullshit. It's stupid.
It's honestly the biggest waste of time. Like the FA Cup, something to write home about. The Champions
League,
you
get a European. If you win it and you don't qualify for Europe, you get into Europa League. I mean, there's literally a very big incentive to win the FA Cup. Not to mention it's a piece of silverware. Bottom line is, I agree with you. That being said, I 100% agree with you that it's going to be a slim margin, a 1 goal, maybe 1-0. I honestly think it could be a gouge your eyes out 0-0 draw, especially if Romero's back, especially if Dyer or Romero back. I think Spurs could end up losing this game on a Tanganga or Sanchez mistake, flub, just like in the League Cup game. That's my opinion. I don't think Spurs are going to be able to necessarily break down Chelsea's defense. I just don't think without Son. I don't think Bergwijn's going to get the start still. Just because he scored 2 goals today doesn't mean he's going to get the start over Mora, who puts in a lot harder work pressing and a lot harder work up top. I just don't see a different lineup than what they put out today. I think they will play 3 center defensive mids. I think they will play Skip, Winks, Højbjerg. I think they played all 3 of those players played exceptionally well today, and maybe Højbjerg is going to have some better second half of the season form because they need him to. But either way, defensive, both pretty good defensive teams, minus Spurs being Spursy. The thing that worries me about Chelsea, and being like a quasi Chelsea fan through you and through just having to watch a lot of Chelsea, is that they can't score.
Pulisic,
yeah, sorry, but they can't score. And 2 of my favorite players in that team, Joel and James, are out. We both said it. Wingbacks are the lifeblood of Chelsea, and
they're
Alonso.
When you're playing a 3-5-2, they're the lifeblood.
Alonso and Azpilicueta. Who's the other wingback? I don't even know who they're putting.
Yeah, they're playing with Alonso, Azpilicueta, and sometimes they're using Hudson-Odoi. Sometimes they're even using Pulisic.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch Alonso play wingback. It's really hard, and it's hard to watch Lukaku play soccer.
If we start Lukaku, we basically tie or lose that game because it's like having brutal. He's
like having
brutal.
A player out there who isn't doing it. Like it's like having one less player on the field, because Kane essentially plays as a 9, just like Lukaku. But look, dude, did you see him today? He was running back to defend. He was playing as a false. He was playing as a 10 for some of that game. You know what I mean? He creates. Lukaku stands there and tries to put his back to a defender and receive the ball and take a terrible touch. I mean, he had an assist, or almost an assist with who almost scored. I don't know. Somebody almost scored, but either way, the guy's like molasses. It's like watching molasses on the field. It is brutal. The guy doesn't have a first touch to save his life.
So I got 2-1 Chelsea. What do you got? You got 2-1 Spurs or 1-0 Spurs?
I got 1-0 Spurs, and that's just because I'm a Spurs. It could easily be 1-0 Chelsea. I think that Spurs were terribly unlucky in that League Cup game. They may have deserved to win that game. I'm not saying win the tie, but they had a couple calls that didn't go in their favor, right? So they had an offside call. Kane had an offside that should have been a goal. And then I think there was a penalty that should have happened that didn't get called, or at least a free kick that didn't materialize from a Rudiger foul that didn't get called. Either way, Spurs were unlucky. I think they got outplayed in the first leg and then played better in the second leg. It could go either way. I mean, what are you going to get? You're going to get So the way I feel about Spurs now is that when they go down 1-0, which they've in the last couple of games, they've gone down. At least league games, they've gone down 1-0 and come back and won a game. I don't feel like they're out of a game when they go down 1-0 now, right? So I feel like they can, especially when they're on the front foot and they're creating chances. I feel like one of them, eventually Kane is going to find the back of the net. Eventually, he knows somebody's going to, score. So
let's change gears a little bit away from the Boys and Bolos Derby, Boys and Bolos Cup, if you will. And let's go to the AFCON. I said this on the pod that we recorded, but we need to talk about this. AFCON is just the craziest vibes. If you haven't seen like the first opening tackle and I don't remember what game that was, it was like one of the crazier tackles. The guy connected with the dude's shin and then his groin all on the same tackle, and it was only a yellow. And then in the Tunisia-Mali game, you have to see this. Like, if you have not seen this, type into YouTube Tunisia-Mali AFCON, and this will come up. And I'm just going to read the tweet that was put up by ESPN FC because this is probably the best and funniest tweet of soccer I've ever read. It says, VAR review for a penalty, and the penalty was given. The penalty was then missed. The ref blows for full time on 85 minutes. Play does then restart. A player is then sent off. VAR tells the ref it's not a red card. The ref rejects the red review from VAR, and then it says in quotes, it was never a red card. Then the ref blows for full time at 89 minutes and 40 seconds. I tried to even explain this to my father, and he was like, what are you talking about? Why would you stop the game at 85 minutes? And then why would you stop the game at 89 minutes? So there's probably never been a more clear case here for match fixing. He gives a penalty, and then they miss it. And then he throws off a player, and twice in the last 5 minutes, he tries to end the game early. AFCON is a different vibe. The only thing that AFCON has better than CONCACAF, and this does not speak highly of CONCACAF, is that in our World Cup qualifying, because they use AFCON for World Cup qualifying, in our World Cup qualifying, we don't even have CONCACAF. I mean, we don't even have VAR, excuse me. So as much as I may laugh at what happens at AFCON, I'm like, God, in my own backyard, it's even worse because CONCACAF is just a shit show.
I will update you with some news that I read earlier today. I don't know if I read it, where I read it on Twitter, if this is actually true, but I heard that the next few rounds of CONCACAF World Cup qualifying will have VAR. So all the games that should have had games should have had VAR were played without VAR, which affected the outcomes of the games. But now the games will have VAR, so cool, level playing field, I suppose, right? All those other points, we'll just change the rules. Whatever.
That's really bad. That's so
really bad.
That's so Mickey Mouse of CONCACAF, and it just like continues to push us back as far as like people taking us seriously. Because I'm like, I think the U.S. national team that will go potentially to Qatar and also be in the 2026 World Cup, I think it's going to be a very, very good team that you do not want to play. I think it will shock the world, and I think they're going to do really well. But I say that, but then it's really hard to back up because you look at our like international qualifying tournament for the World Cup, and it's a freaking joke. There's like crazy things like in the El Salvador game that we tied, or maybe even lost. God, I don't even remember. But in the El Salvador game, I think we tied or lost. There was multiple things that I thought were penalties. Had VAR reviewed them, maybe we get one of those to drop. So I don't know. I just wanted to call out that AFCON is going on, and it's been quite the vibe. And Ghana, which is one of the more historically bigger teams, and as far as Africa, they have one of the bigger populations, so they're going to do better. They got bounced out by Comoros, which I don't even know where Comoros is on a map.
I didn't even know it was a country.
I will look them up. It is very much a country, but we're talking, it's like if El Salvador bounced out Mexico out of the CONCACAF tournament. It's a couple million people probably at best. And in fact, and I should probably just look this up in real time, I believe Comoros is an island, if my African geography is not going to let me down. Yeah, Comoros is an island. God, I'm good. Has less than 1 million people. Less than 1 million people, and it's an island. So it's like us losing to UVI or something. Meanwhile, Ghana has 31 million people and historically is one of the better African footballing nations. So that is a major upset of epic proportions. So the Ghanaian players will be coming back to Europe, the ones that play in Europe. So, but the most important thing tonight, Jeff, is that we review fantasy and we tell everyone that they need to get on their horses and try to beat Ozatique. Because Oz has woken up and he's flying up the table. Oz is now in first by a solid 19 points, with Nick Bailey in second and Mitch is in third. Mac Bruce has fallen off a little bit. You're up to sixth. I was in eighth until Diego bounced me out today, and now I'm in ninth. But people, if you're in our Premier League fantasy, we need you to step up. Can you do that? Jeff, are you going to step up?
I don't know. I felt like last week was the flukiest of weeks because you had Bowen, who I think Ozatique triple captained, score him 67 points. That's egregious. That's like, and then, you know, Salah's coming back. We'll see who's really paying attention, because we'll see the people pick Salah back up when he comes back from AFCON. How that whole like transfer gymnastics plays out and how that affects the league, we'll have to see. Some people are going to forget and miss out on a week of Salah. He may score a shitload of points, and then they may be screwed. I might try to capitalize on that because my team's struggling. I've had some bad luck. I've had some injuries, and the North London Derby postponement did not help my team much. And Son getting injured. So,
yeah, I have Reece James. He got injured. Super brutal.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Super brutal. So there we are. Week 22 and 23 in the bag. Chelsea's already played week 24 because we have to get a jump on week 24 because of the Club World Cup. Week 23 coming up this weekend. Man City essentially is definitely one horse racing it at this point. I don't really see how they're going to be caught, but anything's up for grabs. Jeff, do you have anything else to share with the people?
This was supposed to be a YouTube video. I will say that we messed that one up real bad. Real bad. So you will be hearing this only in audio. We have significantly upgraded the barbershop studio, and we are looking forward to sharing the renovation, sharing our new look, hopefully in the coming weeks. We can't promise. I'm not going to promise anything. We do have a design. We do have a look. We do have some things in the works for our content, and just stay tuned. I hope people like it. If you do, when you see it, let us know, and just stay tuned for that. That's all I really have to say about it.
Yeah, and if you like it, share it with other people. We are trying to grow this as big as it can get, whatever that looks like. And 2022 is definitely going to be our delve into YouTube and getting more on camera, because why not? So, yeah, I guess that's it, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to see me in Tottenham gear. I mean, I know it's going to be painful for you, John, but that's just the way it's going to have to be. I mean,
this is also going to be... It's actually going to be the perfect time for us to flex all the jerseys, because if you are a soccer fan and you've been listening, or footy fan, and you've been following the game for even 5 years, you probably got a couple kits. I've been collecting kits for 23, 22 years now, and I have so many kits, and I'm excited because now we get to show them off on the YouTube. And I know, Jeff, you have a crazy collection. John Scheimer has one of the best collections I've seen. So
in the past 2 years, I've really expanded my collection. My mom threw out a bunch of my old kits from high school, which I've just very begrudgingly, I think she gave them to the Goodwill or something. So whoever got those at the Goodwill is, got some old like Michael Owen jerseys or something. But I did reclaim my my Kappa Tottenham jersey from like, I don't know, it was like 2003 or 4 or something. That old fresh one, the one with the Thompson logo. But besides that, we've got the kits. We're gonna wear them. You're gonna see some surprises. Hopefully, Jarrett will pull out some throwbacks, and hopefully that'll be a fun thing we do. Kit corner on the YouTube.
For sure, and I think we're gonna do a lot more giveaways too. So make sure that you are watching the YouTube once we actually get the video up, because we'll probably have certain things in the video that you will not hear in the audio. But if you reach out, we'll do some giveaways. So there's that. Well, Jeff, thank you for letting me come down your basement virtually. And ciao.
Ciao. Thanks for listening to the Boys and Bolos podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Twitch at Boys and Bolos.
If you'd like to be a guest, please reach out. You can hit us on any of the social media accounts that Jeff just mentioned, or email us directly at boysandbolos@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, and see you next time.